There's something interesting I've noticed after years of watching how people talk about money. A lot of people believe that if they could just earn a little more, everything would be fine. Just get a raise. Just add another income stream. Just hit a certain number. But what's interesting is there are people who make a lot of money and still feel like it's not enough. At the same time, there are people with pretty average incomes who seem surprisingly at ease, and that difference isn't about the number in their bank account. Main point one, feeling not enough doesn't come from money. It comes from how you see it. I've noticed something very clear after observing people across different income levels. Two people can earn almost the same amount, but feel completely different about their finances. One is constantly stressed, always feeling like it's not enough. The other, not necessarily rich, but relatively calm. What's interesting is, this difference doesn't start with money. It starts with how they define enough. Most people don't realize that. Enough isn't a fixed number, it's a feeling. And that feeling can shift very quickly. A simple real-life example. Someone might think, if I can make $800 a month, I'll be fine. But once they get there, they start thinking, maybe $1,200 would feel more comfortable. Then $2,000. Then $4,000. The enough line keeps moving further away, not because life actually requires more, but because their internal standard has changed. I've realized the more you chase a number, the more it feels like you're always behind it. And that's why many people, even when they earn way more than before, still don't feel any more secure. Main point two, income goes up. But pressure doesn't, because your lifestyle rises faster. I've noticed a quiet pattern that shows up in a lot of people. As income increases, life starts to shift along with it. At first, it's small things. Eating out more comfortably, choosing a slightly better place to live, buying things that feel more deserved. All of that sounds completely reasonable. But what's interesting is, these changes rarely stop. Most people don't realize that every time they upgrade their lifestyle, they're also raising the minimum level needed to feel okay. A simple example, before, you were perfectly fine eating at your usual spots, but over time, you get used to nicer restaurants. And then, when you go back to your old habits, it suddenly feels off. Not because you can't afford it, but because your standard has shifted. I've realized the most dangerous expenses aren't the big ones. They're the small changes, repeated over time. They don't create pressure right away, but gradually they force you to maintain a higher lifestyle, even if you don't truly need it. And eventually you fall into a very familiar state. You don't feel like you can slow down. You don't feel like you can step back. You have to keep up the pace. On the outside, everything looks fine, but inside there's this quiet sense of fragility. And what's interesting is, it's not because you're not earning enough. It's because your lifestyle has outpaced your income without you even noticing. Main point three. Financial security doesn't come from earning more. It comes from what you keep. After spending, I've realized something very simple, but it completely changes how you look at money. Most people focus on one question: how much do I make? But the real question is, after everything I spend, how much do I actually keep? What's interesting is, two people with the same income can end up in completely different positions. One has almost nothing left at the end of the month. The other still keeps a portion. The difference isn't income, it's the gap. Most people don't realize that the feeling of security doesn't come from total income. It comes from knowing that no matter what happens, you still have room to adjust. A simple example. One person makes $1,200 and spends $1,150. Another person also makes $1,200 but only spends $900. The first person might look like they're living better, but the second person has something more important: space. Space to breathe, space to handle unexpected situations, space to make choices. I've realized what makes your mind feel lighter isn't how much you earn. It's the distance between money coming in and money going out. The bigger that gap, the less you're forced into rushed decisions. And when you're not forced, you finally get to choose how you want to live. Main point 4, financial pressure doesn't show up right away. It shows up when you lose flexibility. I've realized something that feels a bit counterintuitive. A lot of people live with high expenses for a long time and still feel like everything is fine. Income is steady, bills are getting paid, nothing major seems to be going wrong, and it's that temporary sense of stability that makes them believe their financial system is solid. But what's interesting is, financial pressure rarely shows up at the beginning. It usually only reveals itself when something small goes wrong. A very simple example, just 1 month of lower income, an unexpected expense, or a small change at work. Suddenly, everything starts to fall out of place, not because you can't make money, but because you don't have any room to adjust. Most people don't realize that the real risk isn't how much you spend, it's how little flexibility you have. When every dollar is already assigned to something, there's no space left to adapt. And that's when the pressure really hits. I've realized a financial system that looks stable but has no margin is actually very fragile. On the other hand, a system with some breathing room, even if it's not perfect, can handle stress much better because it gives you time to think, it gives you options, and most importantly, it gives you a chance to recover from mistakes. Main point 5. Financial freedom doesn't come from spending more. It comes from having the ability to choose. I've realized something that a lot of people misunderstand. When people think about having more money, they imagine an upgraded life, a nicer house, a better car, more comfortable spending. But what's interesting is, when you look at people who are truly financially stable, the biggest difference isn't how they spend money, it's how they make decisions. Most people don't realize that financial freedom isn't about being able to buy more. It's about not being forced to do things you don't want to do. A simple real-life example. Someone can take a few months off work without feeling too stressed. Someone else can turn down an opportunity that doesn't fit them. Another person can spend time with family without constant financial pressure in the background. These things don't require you to be extremely rich, but they do require something else, control. I've realized when you gain control over your money, you start gaining control over your life. You're no longer making decisions just because of financial pressure. You can choose your work, choose your lifestyle, choose your pace. And that's the kind of wealth a lot of people are actually looking for, but don't know how to define. It's not material wealth. It's the wealth of choice. Conclusion. After years of observing, I've realized that what makes someone feel secure with money isn't the number they earn. It's how they use it, how they think about it, and how they structure their financial system. Once you shift your perspective, you'll notice something surprising. You don't need more money to start feeling okay. You just need to manage better what you already have. If this resonates with you, take a moment to reflect on how you're using your money every day. And if you want to understand more about the psychology of money and how to build a sustainable financial system, hit like and subscribe to the channel. We're going to look at money in a very different way.